spiked out. I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of This Week in Startups. This is our Tuesday. I'm trying to estimate what show number this is, but we've done so many shows I can't even remember. But this is a show I've actually been trying to do for a while. It's very hard to find the women CEOs and the women founders in the startup community, let's face it. There's not enough of them.
Few of us,
yeah.
but they're growing.
It's growing.
And in New York City in particular, which is exciting to see.
A lot in New York City, in fact, and makes total sense because you have a lot of media businesses there and whatnot, and women tend to be well represented, consumer-driven. They understand these things. Gosh, it's been hard to get you on the show because you're in New York, but you happen to be out here. Alexis Maybank, thank you for coming on the program. One of the founders of Gilt Groupe, which when I told my wife who the guest was today, she was like, "Oh my God, you know, I bought this," and she's like, "That water bottle in your hand." I'm literally drinking a water bottle, and she goes, "That water bottle's from Gilt Groupe." You know those Swiss-made bottles? I don't know, when was that on the site? Like 2 months ago?
I don't know, several times. Well, thanks for having me, by the way, and thank your wife for being such a big sponsor and supporter of the business.
It's a great service. I mean, she is addicted. I'm a member. I read the email every day. I check it out. I'll be honest, I haven't bought any men's clothes from it yet. But I don't buy my own clothes anyway, so I'm sure that a box of stuff for me will arrive at any point. Some housekeeping stuff to get out of the way. We're going to have our next meetup.com startup meetup. You guys know Meetup, right? Because you guys are right in town with Scott Heiferman, who hasn't been on the program yet, but I'm desperate to have him on there.
Gotta get him.
And he's doing these global meetups where you go to meetup.com/startups, and we did this global meetup. We had literally 20 cities all do meetups at the same time. So we're going to do another one of these in July, and then they all videoed in over like Ustream or Skype. And so we're going to do that again on July 20th at 11 a.m. Pacific, which in New York would be 2 p.m., which in London would be
+5, 7.
7, and in Athens it'll be 8, and in Amsterdam probably 8, something like that. Yeah, I think you're right. It's 5 or 6 or 7. It's 6 hours ahead, I think.
I'll defer to you on that.
Yeah, I think Europe is 6 hours ahead. So anyway, what this means is everybody in Europe, you can be part of the show, and so do that. On June 24th. We're having the Open Angel Forum in San Francisco, so definitely come out for that and check it out. And thank you to DNA Mail and WebSpy for sponsoring the program. Everybody knows and loves DNA Mail. Use Exchange, or you're a Google Docs. What do you use? Google Docs, Exchange?
I use the Google Docs personally.
Personally, okay.
Personally, yes.
So DNA Mail provides hosted email for $1.99, $2.99. If you're a startup company, you shouldn't be hosting Exchange servers and have an IT department. Just outsource that, and the same with WebSpy. They're going to help you monitor your network. And thank you to them for sponsoring the program for over a year now, and all this content is free in this studio. Alexis, you're in here. The studio looks like we spent a lot of money.
It is glorious. It's a glamorous studio. I feel like I'm right in the midst of Hollywood.
You just thought you were coming to a podcast, and all of a sudden you come in, and it's like it's a professional operation
with equipment. For those of you who can't see, they're big lights, big bright lights. Even offer you any type of beverage you want. It's quite exciting. Any beverage you want, and 4 or 5 people come in, and they just start doing stuff to you. Like microphones are being added, and beverages are being placed. It's like super professional. It is very professional.
So you were one of the original 3 founders of Gilt Groupe. When did you found the company? Why did you found the company?
About 3 years ago to the date we started building Gilt Groupe. It was very exciting. Myself, my co-founder Alexandra Wilson, who comes out of the fashion luxury world. I come from more of a consumer e-commerce background. 2 engineers, Mike and Fong, from coming out of MIT respectively, and Kevin Ryan, who was an initial backer of ours, but plus very involved as a founder and chairman today of the company. We started building it really taking inspiration from something that Alexandra and I did a ton of in New York, called sneaking out to the sample sales. So it's a New York tradition, happens in New York City alone, where designers host these sales only for kind of friends and family.
I've been to them.
You have?
Yes.
Not many have, but they're highly coveted. You get great merchandise that's current and at great insider prices.
Yeah, the equivalent in Los Angeles of the trunk sale. they actually go to somebody's house and open up a trunk of all their stuff. But in New York, that's where they actually live? Or?
In New York, you go to the showroom. Of the designer. You go to their atelier, whatever it might be. But importantly, we were getting these calls from family members who didn't live in New York saying, if you see a satin clutch at the Fendi sample sale, grab it for me. And something we know we did and created a tremendous amount of excitement for consumers just there in the city, we knew it would do well nationally. So we drew upon that kind of limited supply, short-term sale, fantastic merchandise, but brought it online to a national audience.
This has become a phenomenon. You guys have gone from a cold start, and how many, it's been 3 years that the site's been operating, or how many years has the site been operating? You started 3 years ago? When did it launch exactly?
We started building it in June 2007 and it launched in November 2007.
So it's been 2.5 years since launch. So you have about 30 months under your belt. And from a cold start, how many people today will go onto Gilt Groupe, and how many items will you move in certain range? Is it hundreds of items, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? Where is it at now?
So currently we have about 2.5 million members who are members of Gilt Groupe, have either been referred by a friend to signed up, who've just said, I'm interested, join me as part of this club. On a daily basis, we're hosting about 17 sales that start right at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, last 36 hours, and we work with about 750 brands. But on a kind of start of sale basis, we have hundreds of thousands of customers rushing in right at 9 a.m. 50%
9 a.m. West Coast, noon in New York.
Eastern Standard.
And that noon is for a specific purpose?
Well, it was one for the East Coasters to try to give them a break during lunchtime. Pacific, you're coming in the office, you're grabbing your coffee, you're doing a little bit of shopping. We have evolved it so there are sales that start at different points of the day, so that you're catching Californians maybe later on during the day. But it's really exciting to see. I mean, if you look at the traffic on the site, we're generating millions of impressions and have hundreds of thousands of people rushing through our virtual doors right at the same moment.
Really?
So
hundreds of thousands of people come rushing in every day.
And
that's incredible.
We weren't sure if this was something that would actually take hold. Training a person that they have to make a purchase in under 2 minutes and show up right at the start of a sale, that was completely counterintuitive to e-commerce, which was...
Right, it's available anytime. It's easy at my convenience.
Endless selection, if it's got to be here tomorrow or the day after for it to be a good site. We've kind of flipped that whole psychology where the customer gets there at the beginning, they know it's great merchandise at great price, but they have to act quickly because it's going to disappear. So if they get there too late, they perceive it as their fault. And so that was just kind of an interesting thing that did take hold that we weren't sure would happen as quickly as it did.
And it's happened in a major way. So when you get, I'm looking at the jeans here on my computer, and it's for guys too.
Guys, about 30% of our base are guys, is the fastest growing. And they're a little bit even more competitive about their shopping on Gilt than even the women. So it's hard to believe. So
I'm looking at the jeans today, and looks like an incredible deal, 50% off. How many jeans would you move on a day like this? Is it low thousands, I would guess? Or what are the lot sizes that push through, like in terms of items? I know you can't tell me the exact amount, it's competitive.
Well, I mean, we have over 50,000 items moving at our distribution centers weekly.
Wow.
So, and of course that changes given on the lineup of every given week, but roughly speaking, that's what we're moving, and it's a tremendous amount of throughput given, we are hosting the majority of those sales, about 55% of them between the hours of 12 and 1 Eastern Standard. That's our throughput. So we scale to be quite a large size business for about a couple hours a day, and then we have the tail of the rest.
So the advantage is I'm basically getting 50% off. Is that the standard discount on your site? 50%, 60%?
The offer usually is 50 to 70% off.
Wow. And so the downside is I have to get it during this period of time. It might sell out, and the return policy, it's not Zappos where you can return it a year later. I mean,
we cover all return shipping, so we cover the fee on that, and we accept an exchange or a return for anything with a size. The rest is final sale.
So if it didn't fit, I can go into a different size. If that size is sold out, then I get a credit.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not that bad. So you don't have to be scared about buying a pair of jeans and it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
You can at least, at the worst case scenario, you get a credit and you
exactly
spend that another time.
Exactly.
Most loyal customers, because I know people are getting addicted to this stuff. Behavior patterns are changing, like you said. People are like waiting at their computer for this moment to buy stuff. Your most addicted user, without giving me their name, how often do they shop? The most addicted, the top 1%, are they buying stuff every day? How much are they spending? Like your top customers?
They're making a couple purchases a week, usually with more than one item in it. We can see such kind of micro information on the purchase, though. We can see how many times they're trying to hit, add to my cart before they're successfully doing it. And I think the record holder of someone trying to get that one pair of high heel platforms that she was looking for was hitting refresh about 1,000 times to add that pair of shoes to her cart. So we have a very determined shopping base.
Are they hitting the refresh because they can see the items before they're actually available? Do they have a little bit of time before they click the buy button, or is it just that the server may be timing out because there's so many people pounding it?
It's because it's not anything to do with scale. It's because of availability. So it's first come, first serve. You find an item, you put it in your cart. You have 10 minutes to decide if you want to buy it or not, and then it goes back into general inventory. So around 9 minutes and 55 seconds, members start pounding the refresh button so that their first grab at it as it becomes available.
Interesting. So it's sort of like Ticketmaster in that way. If you don't get the seats, you're screwed, or they get put back in the pool. This business has become extremely successful. How many people work here now? Because I've heard, I'm friends with Kevin Ryan. I've known him for a long time from the DoubleClick days, who was one of your early investors and actually put us together over email. How many people are working here? Because at one point he told me there were 200 or 300 people working here, and I think that was like a year ago. And now I'm hearing
today we're north of 450 employees.
450 people.
Yeah.
So in 30 months, you've hired that many people.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, it's a big part of the kind of challenge of scaling is getting great talent in the door. So every person we hire, we probably met 6 people for the same position.
Right.
So we had
thousands of interviews.
We had a quarter last year where we brought in over 100 people. So we were basically doubling the size of the business in a quarter just last year. And so the socialization process, getting them in the door, making sure that they uphold the values and are consistent with the culture. It's been a big focus of ours, and it's worked out well. There's a lot of talent on the market right now, and people are passionate about this idea. Yeah,
I mean, the timing is right. You had the economic crisis. People are looking to save money. Unemployment is high. Yeah, it's a good time to be saving money on stuff. People would be more apt to get a deal. How do you maintain the culture when you're hiring that quickly?
So
what are the techniques?
A few things, and kind of organically from the very beginning, our culture emerged. It wasn't something we dictated, but we saw that personal flexibility was a big part of our culture, the kind of roll up the sleeves and get something done. And I think the best way to make that consistent as you bring on large numbers of people are to get current employees into the interviewing process to help with the vetting. If you have a group of 30 moving to 75 or 100 employees, get them from different groups, different teams involved so they can help vet, screen for people that will be cultural fits. We do a lot socially as a company, so it's trying to get people to meet each other across the business.
Going and having drinks in New York after work.
Going having drinks, going out, whatever fashion-related events are out there too.
Have you written a culture document? Have you gone to that phase of saying, like, explicitly, these are the 5 things that we stand for, like Tony from Zappos or the Flip Cam people? We
have written the kind of top things that are important to our culture. So what we value in kind of how people treat each other, to how they how they carry out their own roles, to how we view the status quo and won't ever stick to just the status quo, but will constantly seek to kind of push the envelope forward. So the way we look at it dictates the way we look at product development, to the site experience, the way we treat our members, our vendors, and our customers.
What are the keywords? I mean, I heard you say before this sort of sense of personal responsibility and flexibility, and I know to have a flexible work experience, you're going to have to be a responsible person. I ran a company where people worked from home, so it seems like personal responsibility and being an adult is one of them. What else are the other keywords? One of
the key ones that emerged was just personal flexibility, and a very strong but healthy ego. So it's not just about what's in your job description, it's what's in the best interest of the company and getting your job at hand done. So you see a general willingness amongst employees to kind of roll up their sleeves, help another colleague. In the beginning stages, of course, we all had 2 or 3 roles, so that emerged as very, very important. always being direct with communication. So not
no politics, no nonsense.
Going first to this, to that, and then maybe it gets back to the person. So. We go to the extent that we actually have printed out on cards these top values, so that if someone is going against it or isn't being
value
direct,
number 3.
Throwing it on the table and say, hey, you got to go direct, you got to go talk to Sally directly, and let's not have this conversation swirl around her, but just go talk to her directly.
Yeah, face the truth.
Exactly.
It is actually amazing how this sort of idea of a culture document and manifesting the culture in a very real, tangible way and explaining it has become the key driver to a lot of the successful businesses today. I mean, it wasn't like that 10, 15 years ago. Culture was like, somebody said, we're going to do a culture document 15 years ago. You were in the industry, you were at eBay. It was kind of considered goofy, wasn't it?
Very goofy, but I think the nuance is that when it comes to culture, you have to let it emerge organically. But at one point it has to be documented so that you can keep it consistent as the company scales.
So that's interesting,
So some companies think, okay, this is how I want my business to be, and they have a group of people who are there already, and then they try to throw down 5 or 6 truisms of this is how we want to go about doing business. But you can't necessarily impose certain philosophies or beliefs on a pre-existing group. You have to let it be organic, it has to be owned by the team, and it has to be shared belief by the team. But at some point you do need to document it, because it's hard to keep that in place as over the years, the decades, or the multiplication of the size of your employee base.
So if I'm hearing correctly, a best practice would be identify what it is from the early founders of the company. I'm assuming the ones that you want to model the company after, right? So that may not be everybody, but those people who most represent the company and your belief in it, of what it should be, help define it. You formalize it in some way by writing it down, then you get buy-in, and then you circulate it.
It's suss out from the differing levels what is already happening and what is important to the people who are part of that initial team. And it should be all levels of that initial team. What are the core things? Maybe what do you want to root out, but what are the core things? Document it, circulate, get buy-in, get to certain evangelists who will help, spread the word, host events, whatever it might be. But I think the thing that is really critical are the people that are leading the organization really believe in it and do it exactly as is written, because it comes from the top. People follow what they see, so that example has to be set from the very top management.
Yeah, it's I never did it before this company, and I did it in this company, and it really has a wonderful effect. And there hasn't been so much research or writing about culture documents that I've read. It's not, but I do hear from very specific successful people over and over again that the culture document is one of the keys to operating the business, actually. It makes it easier to be a manager, doesn't it?
A lot easier. People know where they stand, what's expected of them, and kind of the culture that they're becoming a part of and buying into. I guess there's a professor by the name of Kotter, K-O-T-T-E-R, that's done a lot on this topic. So I've definitely read his works throughout time, but it's I think getting a lot more prevalent, the research into it over the past 5 years, but it's definitely new.
It's definitely new, and it seems to be working. And so you see it as a way also when you're onboarding people to select the right people, if I'm hearing correctly, and to sort of fast track them into the culture. So if do you show them the culture document when they join and say, here's the culture document, do you want to be part of this?
Yep, literally day one in our orientation, we have people coming in, they're learning about the company, they're hearing it directly, the founding story, from Alexandra and myself. They're meeting with Kevin Ryan, or they're meeting with Susan one-on-one over breakfast, and then we're displaying right there in that very first orientation, like, here's what the company believes in, here's the principles it was founded on, and so that's ingrained from the very start. And we remind people of it at different points, whether it's our all-hands meetings that we have quarterly or others touch points.
And if somebody falls out or becomes out of sync with it, it becomes obvious. If all of a sudden they're like, hey, you know what, I just want to do my thing and I don't want to be groundbreaking anymore, it's like, well, the social contract is right here. You said you wanted to be groundbreaking and helpful and, take all this responsibility, you're not doing it anymore. Who are these 450 people and what are they doing? Because it seems like a lot of people. Are these all people who are, what do they call them, buyers in fashion?
Our largest
Procurers?
largest area from a human resources standpoint are, first of all, engineers. So scaling the way that we've scaled and building out a business where we're hosting, 50 to 75% of our business in a 1 hour period during the day. And we've had to overcome pretty large and complicated but interesting challenges from an engineering standpoint, ones that help you draw really good talent to the company.
Right.
So largely engineers that are building out not just the front end of the site, but most importantly in our case the back end and enabling it to scale as quickly as it does. Yeah. It comprises a lot of merchandisers. We work with over 750 brands today across categories spanning from women's and men's apparel to stuff for your home, stuff for your kids, even stuff for the home at this point. So
yeah,
a little bit
knives.
of everything.
Yeah,
knives,
wow, I need some knives.
Services, we offer a lot, and we've even gone into travel. So it's a big area, maintaining those relationships.
That's Jet Setter.
Jet Setter, correct.
Yeah. What is the value proposition to the people who are selling this stuff? Because this has gone beyond just once a year I got to get this stuff out of my showroom. Mm-hmm. I mean, this has become like the new channel. This has become something bigger than a sample sale. So what is their motivation today? Because it's got to be different than in the beginning, right? Or am I reading into that?
Well, Gilt essentially has become a marketing channel.
Right.
We are in the business of creating aspiration amongst a customer base interested in luxury and fashion. So in the early days, I'd say the first 2 months, we really focused on businesses who didn't have any liquidation strategy. But as soon as we started getting calls inbound from old world luxury businesses, ones that are quite well known that you might have already heard of, we saw that their average customer base in the store might be 45 to say 65 years old. And they were desperately trying to find a way to reach a younger consumer, affluent, who's largely these days strapped to their desk in front of computer screens, and really hard to target. And they're not going to the stores as much.
So what I'm hearing in that is maybe this isn't for your existing customer base. This is a way for you to expand your base. And is that how you get the leverage to get the ridiculous deals? So do they look at this as, if I'm looking at Tumi luggage right here, I know Tumi luggage is expensive. Like I see that when I go to an airport, but it's great stuff, right? And I don't own any Tumi, but I know people who do, and they're generally older. The way you motivate them to give half off is because, in part, because of the marketing and building up their consumer base? Is that how they look at it?
So we're helping Tumi get that brand into a consideration set of a 20 and early 30-year-old who might not have been thinking about buying Tumi. They now can learn about the history, the craftsmanship that go into the product. In the case of, say, a Ralph Lauren sale, maybe they thought that was more something for the businessman or more something just for my father. And we're reinterpreting many of these brands for a younger generation. And they might not have thought about them. They might have been leaning towards other purchases, but now this is something that is in their set, in their closet, is something that they might gravitate to purchasing over a lifetime.
Yeah, it's interesting. And are these being produced specifically for this channel now? Or people saying, like, there's this market here which is sort of like the outlet stores. Somebody told me at some point the outlet stores are actually making clothes specifically for the outlet stores. They're not the clothes that you actually get at the sample sale. Is that sort of trend happening here where people make just for the Gilt Groups of the world, and it's like a special product, or is it the same product you would get in the store, or sometimes?
Same exact product, quality and craftsmanship that you get in the store. So
is that a requirement of the providers? Like it has to be the same as their?
It's a requirement of Gilt Groupe.
Requirement of Gilt Groupe.
So of our merchandising team that literally goes out and hand selects everything that goes on the site. We don't take everything that's offered us. It's actually the opposite. We screen out a lot of things from the site to keep it very tight selection, where it's almost the anti-selection. You come in, you just see the 36 best things from a sale, 36 best looks from a collection. But where a lot, I think, of the outlet models went wrong is they started thinking, oh, we have a different customer out there, and they won't know the difference, and we'll go lower quality. With Gilt Groupe, we will never do any of that. So what we do is we work with merchandise that is considered off-season merchandise, meaning right now, if you go into a department store, they're about to sell fall product.
Right.
Here we are in June, and most people aren't thinking about cashmere, for example.
Right.
They want to buy something that comes out of a box and they throw on immediately. So we're selling spring-summer merchandise, which to a shopper is current. Department store is 1 season old. But as we continue to grow and have over 2.5 million people shopping on the site, what we do is we go in the beginning of the product cycle. So as they're creating their designs, as they're taking wholesale orders, we're now placing orders alongside the department stores and the other outlets, the other kind of distribution channels. We are not selling them at the same time. We receive them and sell them maybe a month or two later, but it's the same merchandise that is being made and purposed for our channel. We just sell it and take delivery about a month later.
See, I figured this out because I used to go to Barney's in New York and when I lived there and I'd get the black T-shirt. And it was always like 60 or 70 bucks for a T-shirt, but I loved it. So I was like, it was like my guilty pleasure. I'd buy a $60 T-shirt. It was a thick one with the thing. And then I went to the outlet store once and I got them, or the sample sale maybe. It was, actually, I think it was the Barney's sample sale that used to have when they had the downtown one. And I got them for like 20 bucks. I was like, oh my God, it's incredible. And then I bought them at the outlet store one time for 20 bucks or 30 bucks. And I was like, this, and I looked at the two of them. There's 2 different types of shirts. And it was a cheaper shirt and it faded.
Consumers are savvy. They know exactly what goes into quality craftsmanship. And, you know, especially with the prevalence of the internet and sharing and information and just rating of all product, people know when they're not getting the same thing. And many went wrong by going in that direction.
How much is the community involved in like commenting on the stuff? You guys aren't big on the like sort of people debating the items. It's just sort of buy it and the sale's over, right? It's not like Groupon where people are all debating the item all, you know, during the sale.
Well, people comment on items that we sell all the time, and on sales and on the models and what they're wearing, any aspect of it. Most of it occurs off Gilt Groupe on Twitter and Facebook and other venues. And our customers have said, Gilt is for shopping. Don't throw things up like chat and product guides and other things that slow me down in my purchase. But interact with us where we're already chatting. So what we do is we are very active on, you know, through Twitter, talking to customers, Facebook, and all the different other means. And that's where they want to talk to us about feedback, customer support, or even advice, or even, hey, you guys are doing a great job, do more of this.
And it's probably easier too. You don't have to have to me saying like, oh, can you delete these comments below my bag? Somebody, you know, some disgruntled customer is, you know, following to me around the internet and writing horrible things. Or something. We
never do we don't block any quotes or comments or anything. We're just very open about where they take place. And we've heard from customers that they want to continue to chat where they're chatting about sales, making recommendations where they're making recommendations. They don't really want to do it on the same page where they're reviewing all the sale details.
So some of the sites that are, because I get pitched on a lot of startup companies, and the one pitch I've been getting over and over again is, I'm going to take all the sales from Von Privé, that's one from Paris, I guess, but Rue La La sales, this sales, that sales, I'm going to put them all in one place. And you can go there and you'll see everything side by side. Do you guys allow that, or you guys have to be behind some sort of a firewall? So that's part of the deal with the merchants, right? Like you put this at a discount here, but you have to be a member to see it. So how do you deal with that, like people throwing the stuff up on the open web? And is that becoming an issue now? Well,
people talk about everything we're selling on the open web all the time, and we don't block that. The conversation should take place. Our brand partners work with us, though, because they love the membership they're in front of. They love the way in which we're featuring their brand, investing in photography, keeping true to their image. And they don't necessarily want that to be all over the place or showing up in all search results. They like the way that it's in kind of a private area for a members-only audience. And we'll do that and support that. And the customers seem to like it that way, too.
So the Daily D and all these kind of things that are popping up, what do you think? What's your position on those? The people who want to aggregate all the deals. You guys don't participate in that, right? It's not.
We don't participate. It's not surprising if you think about how that's happened across travel, the auction space, so many different verticals.
Yeah, and it would screw up your business to be part of this amalgamation of deals. Why would people come to your site?
Well, I think most of our members sign up for Gilt Groupe, and in fact, we hear this all the time. This word curation always pops up.
Yeah.
They feel that we're curating the best of a collection or the best of a possible lineup of brands, and we're making it easy so it's not everything for everyone. It's just going in, finding something I like, and being able to get out in 5 minutes. It's a daily escape.
Yeah.
So what is counterintuitive about some of those models, just for us personally, is they don't necessarily want some dashboard that's bringing them 300 sales a day. That's overwhelming. That's paradox of choice. I already have someone who's filtering out the stuff that I want to see. I want that. If not, I want even more filtration to guide me towards the exact sales that are right for me.
You guys do a great job of curating the stuff and taking out the noise. And the paradox of choice is overwhelming, huh?
It's something that you have to kind of really, in this area, fight against, because it's not the Amazon model where it's every category and everything for every person. We're really trying to keep it so that you can come in and still make a purchase in a couple of minutes or 3 clicks.
Yeah. You were the founder of, not the founder, you worked with the founders of eBay, and you were part of the founding team, I guess. First 30, 40, 50 employees?
First 30, 40 employees, yes.
Yeah. So what did you learn there that applies here? I mean, you must have learned a lot, because that was early days of consumer engagement and shopping online.
I took a tremendous amount from my eBay experience. I mean, of course, culture was critically important there. We talked about that. But in terms of the business model, eBay was entirely driven by word of mouth. So out of the 2.5 million people that we have shopping today, 75% have come to Gilt from a referral from a friend. So looking and kind of being a part of that really initial viral marketing that happened, that word of mouth marketing that drove eBay, people pursuing their passion, a lot of lessons that I learned there that I applied to Gilt Groupe. Except here we incentivized it. So you refer a friend who shops, we give you $25 towards your next purchase.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have to invite some friends.
Yeah.
Is that like one time per, or is that unlimited?
Every customer that you invite who shops on their first purchase, you get that $25.
And that's what this whole sort of velvet rope thing, it's sort of interesting. You have to do that because that's the brands you're partnering with to do this want their stuff not on the open web. They want it in a private club.
Customers want it too, though. They want to control where the business goes. So they feel a bit of ownership, because in many ways you could argue we're taking our marketing budget and we're giving a large percentage of it to our customers and saying, you help us grow. Tell us who in Pasadena, California would really be interested in this, and it's your decision.
So it gets you get the viral loop going, and you this sort of idea of channel conflicts, which I guess that leads me to sort of my next question. You guys are doing so well. Groupon is doing so well. Who is not doing well because of this? Who loses? Somebody's got to be losing, right? Consumers have so much to spend. So where are they not spending if they're spending on Gilt?
Well,
that's the one tough question of the interview.
No, if you even look just at 2010 to date, 13%, according to a MasterCard study I just saw, of purchasing in the fashion, luxury, and kind of like masstige categories, broadly speaking, has shifted online. So definitely it's coming away from offline purchases. I think that's more of a generational thing, but probably like some of the economic things we've been seeing have spurred that too. So people think they get more information and better pricing because you're cutting out the overhead online.
Which is true. I mean, if you don't have to have a store on Fifth Avenue or 57th Street, it's got to be cheaper.
Same product sold differently, and maybe I don't value or want to speak to that salesperson today. So it's like his personal choice. So I think that's definitely one area. I mean, very broadly speaking, that's been has lost some sales as a result. Department stores are probably another area.
Shopping malls, department stores.
Very early days, we faced a lot of pressure from them, almost the extent where, calling our brand, saying if you do this, we might reconsider you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
so they were a little hardcore about it.
They were very hardcore, and it's funny to see a year and a half later they all jumped on board and launched their own versions of Gilt Groupe.
Yeah, are the Macy's and those kind of people doing that now? They have their own.
The Saks of the world are all have created something similar. I don't have any inside information on it, but yes, they've, in addition to their core business, they're trying to do this as a side business as well. As
an entrepreneur, when you see all these Me Too brands come out, does that get you wildly frustrated? Like, oh my God, everybody's stealing our idea, and so it's creating noise in the marketplace? Or do you ascribe to something different, like it's flattery, or this is just creating more energy for the sector, and since we got here first, it pushes us up higher because we're already the gold standard? I mean, How do you personally deal with that sort of massive amount of copycats actions around the sort of space?
Well, two things. Imitation is definitely flattery. It's a sign that this is here to stay. It's a distribution channel that is more than just a flash in the pan. Right. It's here. It's a great way to reach customers, and customers are responding to it. It definitely, though, as a second point, keeps you very nimble. Because of not just the competitors that are popping up, but the amount of capital flowing into this space.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It keeps you very flexible and nimble, though. We are not only having to grow quickly because of the demand that's being generated on the site, but there's a lot of people out there trying to do something similar. So it makes you think, how can I do this better? How can I improve the shopping experience? How can I get a box faster to a person? So it really keeps you from resting on your laurels. Yeah,
it makes sense. And is all this money coming in, does that sort of put us back in the old internet days where Cosmo and Urban Fetch were basically fighting to see who could lose money quicker by delivering Haagen-Dazs for $1 to people's doorstep in New York? I don't know if you remember those days.
Well, Cosmo, I remember that very, very well.
What an awesome
movies.
And movies.
Haagen-Dazs and movies.
Yeah.
I think a lot of capital available can make people think that it's endless and that it's always there and I can spend wantonly and I can still go back to the well. So I think you just have to match it with a little bit of fiscal conservativeness, so that you are not always going back to the hand. But so trying to get in place certain kind of financial and business practices that are sustainable as quickly as possible. But on the other side, I think you have to be, as a company, very focused on what are the 5 things we want to accomplish this year that will help spur growth, and how are we going to best invest what we have available to get there.
So discipline, I mean.
It's discipline, it's focused, and it's still moving and executing really quickly. I mean, we're investing a lot right now in expanding the business. Yeah. Last year, in March, we went into Japan. We had not just vendors saying, that makes sense, we want to work with you there too, but it was a customer base that was really predisposed to this model. We've invested in entering the travel business because we had customers saying, my lifestyle is like this and I want insider deals. And then same in other areas as well. So we have to kind of stay very current with what our customers are asking us to do.
Here's the the Jet Setter site, and I mean, these are good hotels. These are like really good hotels and really amazing vacations and stuff like that, like the Gansford Hotel. Like I stay at the Gansford Hotel in New York, and this is Miami's. How different is the travel from the fashion? I mean, I would think it's very different. And has this existed before in travel? Because it seems like this Priceline, which Hotwire and Priceline you use when you're broke. Right, like that's sort of the branding. Like if you're broke and you're stuck for money, you use Hotwire. I know this because I used to be stuck, and I used to use Hotwire when I was a broke entrepreneur and get rooms. I would literally get rooms for $90 in San Francisco, but you didn't know what hotel you were going to stay at. I mean, this looks like no compromise. Like I'm staying at a blown-out Gansford, Miami. I mean, there's no downside. So how do you get them to give you a discount?
And the other thing that's different about our model is not last-second travel. This is great stays at premium properties globally, and usually you have 4 or 6 months worth of room nights to choose from. So it's compelling to our audience because they get better rack rates or better prices than are available anywhere else. It's at properties that our travel experts have already vetted, so they're ones that we don't feature, and they're all kind of wonderful aspirational places. I could see myself going on kind of winter holiday there. I could see myself jumping out of the Peninsula Hotel in New York to go and hit the stores in Midtown, whatever it is. So we focus mostly on areas where members tend to travel. They like the big cities in Europe and the US. They like the Caribbean. They like Hawaii. And we have had a lot of success with kind of the far-flung Maldives properties to the new Four Seasons in China. So we have quite a venturous group too.
And for those people who have those hotels, they're not starving for stuff. So is it the same methodology for them? They're thinking, I'm going to get introduced to some new customers to my property, and you know, what the heck, you know, we're not going to lose money on this deal. We may not make as much as we make. Is that they're sort of thinking it's marketing? It's
trying to get a customer in the door that goes and stays at the peninsula every time she goes to New York from there on forward. So it's a similar concept of marketing to get a new customer that remains as a loyal customer, therefore, they're on with their travels. So it's very similar.
Gilt City, this is head-to-head with Groupon, but your brand is more about sort of upscale, aspirational. Groupon just feels like, you know, not addicted to them, but like, you know, an average place. It's not necessarily high-end. Is Gilt City going to be high-end versus like Groupon? How are you going to compete with them? And is this a wise thing to do to go, since they seem to own the local space, you seem to own the fashion space, now you're going into the local space. Does that seem like a wise thing to do? I mean, why go over to that space? Is there that much opportunity?
Well, with our members, it's along a certain lifestyle kind of horizontal axis, we've been able to sell a lot. Yeah. They ask us first for the probably categories we're most well known for, men's and women's apparel and kind of fashion accessories. But from there, we've gone into home, stuff for their kids, gifting and travel. So one thing that we actually started selling more than a year ago was services. So whether that's spa appointments, exercise classes at some of the most coveted spots in town, to restaurant reservations that are really hard to get. It was after we had a sale almost a year ago to the date where we cleared through $500,000 in spa appointments in 60 minutes. We thought, wow, this has some legs to it. Right. We've done it mostly with national branded players like an Exhale Spa or an Equinox. And what we want to do now that we know it works and our customers have been buying it over the past year, is use our unique business essentially to offer that very targeted to a local customer. So still with the Gilt customer, we're offering curated experiences across lifestyle things like culinary experiences to exercise to spa. So
these would be very unique things. When I had Andrew on the program from Groupon, he said they can't help, it stuck with me, if your business is doing great and you don't have any excess inventory, they can't help you. Because I said, a lot of the restaurants I want to go to, you don't have on Groupon. Like, you have restaurants that are sort of more obscure and they need to move seats, but I want to go to the restaurant that doesn't have seats available. How do you guys get a restaurant that, or can you get a Boulé or a Nobu to put things on here? Obviously, Nobu's not going to, but how do you deal with that issue? That the places that I most want to go to are the ones that have the least amount of seats, because you have the aspirational group. They want to go to the place that doesn't have availability. Mm-hmm.
Well, we get the ones that don't have availability. The thing is that they actually do. So we're helping them kind of maintain that perception of scarcity still, and that's important to their model and anything kind of perceived as luxury in any aspect of life. And we're doing it in a way that is really emphasizing the story of this place, or the point of view of the chef, and is kind of furthering their marketing message to a customer group that they really want to target.
So the truth is, everybody could use a little more business. Nobody's sold out all the time. Mm-hmm.
And this is a tasteful way to do it that makes them feel.
See, that's interesting.
It's still protecting their business or their brand.
So image is very important for Gilt. I mean, the design seems very upscale, very clean. This lets you maintain. Now I understand. This is why the interviews are good, because I get to learn. But I'm sure the audience is learning now too. By creating this upscale brand, you make these people more comfortable with, giving a good deal to somebody. It feels like when you go to like one of those Hamptons events and they give something for free in the bag, it doesn't feel like, why would Chanel give something away for free? Yeah, right.
Well, what we sell are a lot of aspirational items. They're not things that are you must have, that are considered purchases that have been in mind for a couple weeks. These are all emotional purchases that you make on a spur of a moment, or because you have an image of what you want to look like that weekend, or at a wedding, or whatever it might happen to be. So everything that we do, whether it's the use of imagery, whether it's the use of telling or extending the brand story, just helps add that kind of greater emotion, that editorial experience to the shopping process. It should be really exciting. Yeah. It shouldn't be very stale and kind of hospital-like environment where you're making decisions. We want to add a little excitement, a little sex
considering you're
to
going
it.
up against Amazon, which their pages are a mess, and eBay, which is an even more of a mess, and Craigslist, which is a disaster. I mean, in terms of design, I mean, the bar is set pretty low on e-commerce. So, I mean, you guys look more like a magazine than, you know, an Amazon, from my perspective. What about video? I haven't seen video on the site. Have you guys started thinking about that and the impact it could have? Like, I'm sure that the designer or the chef that you mentioned before would love to have a video interview tastefully done, you know, in order to justify moving those extra reservations.
It's funny you ask it, because our first 4 months as a company, we had videos that were usually about 60 minutes in duration, showed a fashion show, clip interview with the designer, his inspiration, or whatever it might be. And our customers were like, okay, great, that's fine, I'll watch it, but can you put it over there? Because
TMI.
I have to get into a sale, you're creating one more click, and it's a little distracting. So our customers are just very efficient online. So anything we throw up to cause one more click, to delay their purchase by a second, we hear about it instantaneously. So after about 3 months, we moved all videos that we did to our blog, mostly. People do watch it there. They love seeing, you know, the footage from the Alexander Wang show in New York or whatever it is, but they just don't want it to be a roadblock in their shopping experience.
They're sniping. They want to get that stuff and get it out. How is the iPad impacting the business?
The iPad, and I can
I know you
actually
guys have
show
the
it
iPad
here,
application, yeah.
we actually launched with the iPad, and it's been a huge part of our business. On a typical weekday, iPhone, iPad sales are 5% of our overall business, our incoming revenues. On weekends, it jumps to 8%.
Wow.
Holiday weekends, like Memorial Weekend that just passed, it jumped to 18% of our revenues.
Wow. So 1 out of 5 people or so on the holiday weekend actually buying while they're by the pool or whatever with their iPad or their iPhone.
At a kid's soccer match, watching World Cup soccer, whatever it might be. So people it's extending the purchase, it's opening a new market to us.
What do you think is the better experience? Shopping on the iPad or shopping on your desktop? For you?
I have to say I'm quite tied to both, as you can imagine, but it's even faster, and as long as you have a good connection, even faster shopping on the iPad.
It seems like it's faster, right? Like you're just something about holding the
so rich, the way you can use images, how close a person can zoom, the way they can virtually flip through it like a magazine. It's just, it's gonna really not just revolutionize editorial, as everyone's talking about, print publication, everything, but I think also shopping. So as an example now, if I'm a man, I'm checking out the Hurley sale, I'm a big surfer, you can scroll through the different images of
very nice.
product. You don't have to click in.
No page refresh or anything, you're just zipping through them, get to see all the different looks.
Get to see it. You can scroll up and down much more faster than you can ever do on a scroll bar.
Retail establishment, like people always talked about, God, you know, e-commerce is never going to be able to compete. Who wants to buy their clothes online? Remember those discussions 15 years ago? And now you look at this and you say, how can a retailer compete with that? Like I just quickly went through like 100 different items, boom, 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 picked who I wanted in there.
I dragged it directly into my cart and I purchased it.
Yeah.
From my standpoint, this is such a rich medium. I mean, you can really get into editorial images and pictures in a way that you can't. You can see items worn by a model and turned from 360 degrees in a way that you can't see on a mannequin in a store. So I think offline stores will always exist. People go there because they value the salesperson input, or they really like the in-store experience.
I can't stand the salespeople.
But this is another way.
You don't
It's
like
going to
the
be complimentary.
You don't like the salespeople.
I buy my car online, so I buy everything online.
I mean,
so
that's the honest truth. Nobody likes it. I mean, it's not the salespeople's fault, but it's just, it's not efficient. You keep saying efficient, and you keep talking about how fast it is. You guys have come to the conclusion, I can tell from what you've said during this interview, that speed is essential. People want to get on with their lives. They don't want their time wasted. Give me the thing. I'll try it on. If it doesn't work, take it back, and take it back as quickly as possible.
And we're seeing that increasingly with a younger customer base. Now, there's always going to be the customer that sees shopping as a social thing they do on the weekends with their friends, and they love spending 3-4 hours doing it. That's what stores will be perfect for. Or it's, I'm a new mother, and I don't know which stroller, and I need to go talk to the salesperson to figure out which one to buy. So there is value in the offline experience.
The strollers are going to go through the mommy bloggers.
Yeah, I'm a shopper online, so I'm tried and true to that.
And you have the baby coming.
I do, and I'm buying a lot on Gilt Groupe right now for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on the program. You've been awesome. Thank you for being so honest. Continued success with the business. It's awesome.
Thank you.
You're probably going to bankrupt me.
No.
And you guys have the IP. You know, Kevin said there was an IPO. Oh, wait, is it? Have there been public talk of an IPO about Gilt Groupe?
There's
You guys
been
haven't
rumor,
commented.
but it has not come from Kevin or any other person.
Yes,
with
that's what I
company.
said.
No.
But it would make sense that a company doing 9 figures in revenue, like you guys reportedly are, would be possibly thinking about an IPO at some point. You've got big investors, too.
We've got big investors. We've been very lucky and fortunate to get the financial backing we've got. There's a lot of consolidation in this space, so there's a lot of speculation.
Who are the big investors?
Always. For us personally, we raised money from Matrix Capital out of Boston and General Atlantic out of New York.
Atlantic, huge. Yeah.
So at this point, though, and you know, things that derail companies are when they start thinking about that stuff too much and aren't just laser focused on building the best experience.
It is a distraction, yeah.
It's a huge distraction.
Were you at eBay pre-IPO?
I was there pre-IPO. I saw the process, and then I watched eBay scale from 40 to about 6,000 people. And
wow.
One thing that Meg was tremendously successful at doing is keeping that focus and allowing that business to scale very, very quickly. Pierre and Jeff School, who is another founder of eBay, they kept the kind of culture consistent and that focus on how we treat the customer consistent. But what is a big derailer for companies, and when they think, okay, we've arrived, or a competition can't catch us, or we're overly focused on exit. And so right now we just want to build the best possible customer experience. We want to focus on getting that box there faster, the best brands there, and getting the brands and sales that you want to see right in front of you as you log in. Not all of it, but just the ones you want to see.
And that's enough work.
That's a lot of work right there.
That's a lot of work right there. And you never want to get high on your own supply. Scarface rules.
That's a great line.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the truth. I mean, when you start thinking, this is why my wife's always like, oh my God, here we have this press clipping, and I have to put it on the wall, or she finds an old press clipping from the Silicon Reporter days. I say, don't put anything.
Put that in the file.
Put it in the box. Don't look at it.
Save it for the kids.
That's exactly what I tell her. I say, put it in a box, tape it up, put it in the attic. We literally have boxes in the attic, and whenever I'm in a new thing, stagger it. Don't look at it, because it distracts you from the customer and with the product. And once your eyes is off that, that's when a competitor.
Then it gets dangerous.
I think it's very dangerous. Thank you for being on the program. Thank you to Power VPS, WebSpy, DNA Mail, Ustream, all the incredible sponsors. Thanks to the crew for helping out with the Tuesday show. Flawless. Isn't it amazing? The crew is
professional crew that you've got here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see you all next time on This Week in Startups.
Spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.